What's going on, y'all? You got Will and Josh back here for the HuntStand podcast, and we are sitting down for a controversial topic to a lot of archery purists out there. There's a lot of different segments in the archery world, i.e. traditional, compound,
vertical,
and crossbow. And Josh and I are going to sit down today to, I don't know if we're really going to call it a debate, whatever we want to call it, because we've both done both of these segments, but we're sitting down to discuss an archery season showdown between crossbows and compound bows. You're going to hear Josh constantly refer to them as vertical bows. I don't know anybody else out there that refers to compounds as verticals. He's the only person I've ever heard describe a compound bow as a vertical bow, but we're going to get into it. So I think to kind of kick this one off, we really just need to tell the folks out there about our archery backgrounds, because you've been doing it a while and I've been doing it a while.
Yeah, I guess that's I guess this will be our opening bid for you to have enough confidence in what we're about to say so that it holds some water, which would be getting into our bow hunting backgrounds. I'm sure many of you listening or watching have much more extensive backgrounds, but we've been doing it for a while. I think long enough and enough experiences to at least speak somewhat knowledgeably of both styles.
Well, I've worked on plenty of both.
Yeah, you on the technical side, you've certainly, I mean, I just like to set them up so I can hunt, regardless of what style it is, but you got the technical angle, I got more of the practical angle, and we're going to share some pretty interesting stats and stuff like that too. But yeah, let's kick it off with some backgrounder stuff.
How'd you even get into bow hunting?
Well, I kind of mentioned this in the first episode of the revamped HuntStand podcast here, but I got into bow hunting watching my uncles. They were always practicing in my grandma's backyard, and eventually, long story short, one of them handed a bow down to me. It was an old Martin that had like the wheel style cams on it. You shot with fingers, or I didn't even use a release, just super rudimentary bow, like 15 yards, that sort of thing. And then eventually, my first compound bow on the vertical side was Bowtech. I believe it was I think it was like a Bowtech Experience or Invasion CPX. Whatever one came first. Must have been the Invasion.
I think it was the Invasion, yeah.
So that was my first compound bow, and I got really, really like serious into it. I've never been into the technical side of like fine tuning and tweaking every little detail of the bow, but when it came to getting it set up to hunt and then just my practice routines and all my form, all that kind of stuff, like I took it really seriously, and ended up shooting some deer. Killed my first buck. Actually, my first deer I shot with a bow was in Oklahoma in 2011. Cool experience, and then I went on from there. Kept bow hunting. Did my first DIY bow kill on my family's farm with a nice. He would have been an 8-point, but he had a tine broken off. But it was a 130-inch 7-point wide, really cool buck. Killed him on water, 2012, with a bow, and then just bow hunted from there. Public land, private land. Shot some stuff. Might have shot a hog at one point. I've done an archery elk hunt, even though I wasn't successful. Chased after some elk actually with Logan here, who's producing this podcast. And yeah, man, I've done a couple different, I think I've bow hunted pronghorn now with a compound 2 or 3 times, definitely 2.
Did you get one?
I still haven't killed one. A pronghorn with archery, whether it be bow or crossbow, is still a nemesis for me. So I know I've done 2 compound hunts, and I believe I've done 3 crossbow hunts, and I still have yet to take a pronghorn. probably part of the reason because up until now, maybe it'll change, but I've refused to sit on water. I mean,
Really?
yeah.
You want to spot and stock?
Spot and stock, decoying, just it's so much fun. I couldn't bring myself to sit on water. So maybe I would have shot one by now if I would have just put in some of those long days. I've launched a few arrows at them. In fact, I had a pronghorn that decoyed mid-September. Like if you get after them and everything's right,
yeah,
it's exhilarating. They'll come running from 2 miles away. You'll see a white speck on the horizon and a cloud of dust just rolling in on you.
That's crazy.
You're out in the middle of nowhere with a decoy, no cover. These things will blaze in. What I found is oftentimes they'll hang up right at like that 60 to 70 yard range, and they'll pace back and forth. And so that's why you practice out to those distances when you're getting ready for a pronghorn hunt. But I had one that actually came in closer that decoyed big time. I popped up over a hill and that thing just came blazing in. It kind of caught me off guard how fast it came in. And I grabbed a freaking field point arrow out of my quiver because in between stalks, I would shoot my target just to practice. And had this pronghorn come blazing in. And my uncle was supposed to be ranging for me. He was next to me, and he couldn't get a solid range on it.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, so I guessed it. I missed. Everything felt good, like went through my whole shot process, bubble level, anchor, everything. Float the pin, launched it, totally missed because the range was wrong. And in hindsight, I was kind of glad I did because I was shooting a damn field point at the thing on accident, and
yeah,
it might have deflated him if I hit him in the lungs. It probably even would have, or we would have saw him run off and slowly expire because you can see forever in that country. But anyway, done a bunch of bow hunting. So what about yourself?
For me, it started out when I was a kid. Like when I started rifle hunting and everything, I was 6, 7 years old, and I had seen the old style compound bow in my dad's closet. He had recurves. And so I always had this interest peaked, but obviously at that age, I could never draw back on one. And, parents got me like, old school, just kids bow that I'd play with. So always wanted to do it. And then when I was about in middle school, so I was 12 years old at this point, I had a good friend of mine, I'll even name drop him, Mackie Bollinger. He had a bow that I could actually draw back on. Used to hang out with him, and he had acreage that we'd go out and just fart around with. And so I just started shooting his bow at his house at a target. And so instantly from there, got hooked. And Dad took me into a local metal shop that just happened to have bows in there. It was like Cromer's Wooden Metal Shop in our small town. And they don't do it anymore. But you'd walk in there, they had Matthews, they had all these bows, and so they had a Browning Rage that was my very first compound bow, and used that thing up until I think I was like 14. So I would go out to friends' places and we'd shoot hogs with it, but hadn't sat down and gone after a deer because where I got to hunt, my aunt and uncle, my aunt, she was a little wary of bow hunting. She's like, well, I always hear horror stories, this and that, blah, blah, blah. So not yet. So I just shot pigs and stuff with it. And then eventually kind of outgrew that bow, upgraded to a Jennings compound bow. I can't remember the exact model. They're not even around anymore. And when I was 15, shot my first whitetail doe with a bow at 29 yards. And finally got the permission from my aunt. I went and put in an Ameristep doghouse blind. And I had brushed it in so thick with cedar, it looked like a cedar tree. I was happy. Did the whole 9 yards, wore the black hoodie, everything, the face paint. Shot her, and she ran 40 yards. I was freaking stoked. And so that was where it really just kind of blew up for me. But then I went to college and, did the whole college thing, sports, all that. So kind of quit bow hunting. But then after I left college, coached for a few years, worked in the outdoor industry for Wade Middleton. And that's where archery kind of came back into my life. We'd have the writers events, media events, how we met. And that's where I really started to pick up on working on bows. And then eventually started managing an archery shop in Bee Cave, Texas. And that's where I couldn't even tell you how many bows I worked on for people. But that's like where my experience for tuning, replacing limbs, working on first, second, third axis, leveling everything, cam timing, putting twist and strings to get peep rotation right, D-loops, serving the whole 9 yards came into play. And that's where my, I don't want to say body count, but just started stacking more and more deer and really just kind of blew up there for me. So I've been bow hunting over half my life now. This episode is brought to you by StealthCam, delivering industry-leading trail cameras built for serious hunters. When it comes to monitoring food plots or patterning deer, StealthCam gives us the clarity, reliability, and tools we count on season after season. Explore the full lineup at stealthcam.com.
When it comes to ammunition, the only way you're going to find the best match for your next hunt is if you've got options. And that's exactly what you'll get from our partners at Federal, the biggest line of ammo that you'll find anywhere. Federal loads their own award-winning bullet designs, like Terminal Ascent, one of our favorite all-around hunting bullets. And you won't find any shortage of time-tested favorites like the Nosler AccuBond, all-copper Barnes bullets, or even the Sierra Game King. And if you're one of us who enjoy the benefits of shooting a suppressed rifle with a shorter barrel, check out the groundbreaking 7mm Backcountry. It's a proprietary cartridge design from Federal that achieves maximum performance even from shorter barrels. Get loaded up for your next hunt at federalpremium.com. So, can you remember your first experience or interaction with a crossbow? I'd have to guess it's probably at Wade's, right?
Yeah, I've got two that are pretty big in my mind. First one,
I think I know one of them. We're gonna play that video.
Well, you know that one, but I don't know if you know the other one. The other one was when I was managing the shop. So first one was with Wade. He's sponsored by 10 Point, who is a great partner of ours, make a great product. First one was, I think I'd been working for him for a couple of weeks. We were doing work on one of the ranches, and they needed a pig hunting segment for one of the shows. So I go out with Kevin, who's the head cameraman for them. I don't know his exact title. Sorry, Kevin. But we go out to an area that there were a lot of pigs, and I had never used a crossbow before, and this was before crank handles were a thing, so it was still just the pull strings. I can't remember the model of 10 Point I was using, but I think we sat down for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Pigs came screaming in and shot one at, I think she was 34 yards. It may have been closer, but it was my first experience being in front of the camera.
Oh yeah, this was your major debut as an outdoor TV celebrity.
This is, I think, every YouTuber, outdoor personality, anybody that's in the industry, they go back and look at their first debut, and it's just cringy.
It is. It hurts. In fact, Logan,
cringe.
We have to roll that video clip right now, so let's check it out. For anybody who hadn't seen that before, you can thank me later for allowing you to see that masterpiece.
Yeah, it's the first time in front of a camera. I really don't know what to say.
I shouldn't even open. This is Pandora's box because you could
cringe.
pull up so much shit on me that I would just, it's painful.
I think we should probably drop Josh's wonderful beard. A few images for people to look at right now.
Yeah, there was how like Amish go on Rumspringer, I think it's called. Well, I decided to go on my own version
for like 3 years.
Experience Amish, experience non-Amish. I was non-Amish experiencing Amish all through my beard.
You should have been on TLC.
Man, so back to the first time with a crossbow. Having worked for a hunting magazine for a while, there's a group that we work with called Media Direct, who we still work with as a media partner. And they do some events. One of the events that they do, I think they still do it to this day. It's called the Bowhunting Roundtable at Passa Park in Illinois. And that was my first exposure to a crossbow. They would just have different manufacturers out there letting you test their products and stuff. And if you liked them, you give them consideration to give them some ink in the magazine or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it was a media event. And I believe that was the first time I shot a crossbow. It was an Excalibur recurve style. And yeah, it had the pull rope cocker. There was no auto cocking devices or crank devices back then, really. At least not that I was aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And even just thinking back to that, like those crossbows are still, they still have a really good reputation for being really reliable. But it's just amazing to think of how far the technology has come since I shot that first crossbow. And then fast forward several years, and I was at SHOT Show, and I remember when Mission came to the table with their crossbows, and they were at the SHOT Show media day at the range.
Yeah.
So the day before SHOT Show, a bunch of media go out to the desert, to the shooting range. You get to shoot a bunch of different guns and stuff before the actual convention itself starts.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never seen anything other than guns out there, but Mission had a setup out there at the range. And they had a target out there with balloons on it at 100 yards. And I watched person after person, myself included, sit down, first time ever shooting this bow, and banging a balloon at 100 yards, first shot.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my first impression with crossbows. And then shortly after that, I actually started doing some stuff with Mission. Shot some deer with Mission crossbows. Actually, my first time crossbow hunting was, I believe that was with Carbon Express in Texas in 2018. It was an axis deer hunt. So the first animal I actually shot with a crossbow, of all things, was an axis deer.
Yeah.
Shot a really nice axis buck. And then, like I said, did some stuff with Mission. 2020, shot a velvet mule deer in Nebraska that we filmed for a series that predated HuntStand Originals that I did called The Hunger. And then we started our relationship with 10 Point in 2020, and we've been rolling strong ever since. So it's been 5 years now. We've been rocking 10 Point crossbows and love them.
Yeah. I mean, they make a phenomenal product. I mean, for me, the pig hunt that I did, that was 2014. And then the other experience I had, I mean, it was with 10 Point, and I had to make, I don't know how many safety videos. Like if you go back and look at product videos from probably 2014 to 2016 at 10 Point, you'll see videos of me with Barb from 10 Point making all these product videos, safety videos. And I remember it was like such a, it was a big process, because like, there's a lot of safety and liability behind crossbows. And like we were having to teach people, keeping fingers below the rails, lubing the rails, strings, everything. And I felt like I could shoot a crossbow in my sleep at that point. So that was like, that. And then I wanted to come back to probably a not so good experience with crossbows that I've had. And I think that's where we're probably going to get in the debate here in a little bit. But when I was managing a shop, we sold crossbows. We dealt with a few companies, and I'll never forget it. It was a Saturday morning right before archery season. It was in July. So like that was the busiest time of year. People are coming in, buying bows, getting tune-ups, getting ready. And this guy walks in with a crossbow case. And I'm like, okay, probably need a restring. And I'm thinking like it's a different brand. And he sets this case down on my counter. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, all right, how's it going? Just making small talk. And he's like, yeah, I got a problem with this bow. Need your help with it. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, let's open it up. And he's like, I don't know if you want to open it up. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, it's kind of a big problem. I'm like, what? And he said, well, it's kind of stuck at full draw with a bolt in it.
Oh,
I look at,
man.
I
That's
had
ridiculous.
customers in the shop, and I look at my assistant tech at the time because he was only there on Saturdays. I look at him, I said, get everybody out of the shop.
How does that even happen?
I'll tell you. So what he ended up doing, it was a pull string bow. I'm not going to name the manufacturer. He was practicing on his front porch. He was on property, and he had it in a vice grip tripod. Well, somehow, I don't know how he was doing this. Like, I've got some crazy stories working in an archery shop with dudes. Like, I've got a funny compound one I'll tell later, but somehow he was getting the bow to full draw with an arrow in it. Sometimes people just, I don't know, I don't understand the thought process, but he assumed that because people drew back with the compound, he needed to do the same thing with his crossbow.
What the hell?
Yeah. So he
Trying
tries
to envision what that would even look like.
So he has it in a bog pod. I don't even know how he did this, to be honest. He had to have been standing up and bracing the bow against his body, but he uses the drawstring. Well, as he pulls it back, gets it full, so the string gets caught in the mechanism, the safety mechanism. So he thought you just left the pull string in and shot with the pull string. So he gets it back.
That's brutal.
So you've got the
That's
bolt.
brutal.
Then you have the actual string,
Yeah.
and then you have pull string with hooks and everything.
Yeah, he got lucky.
It got lodged. He went to shoot it, so
Wow.
somehow it got stuck. So I make everybody get out of the shop. I'm like, I don't know what to do here. Get on the phone with the company, somehow get through to, they send me over to a rep, and then they send me to a technician. And I'm like, what do I do? I said, I have never experienced anything like this before in my life. I've got this thing. It's like a ticking time bomb. Like, what do I do here? I've got a bolt stuck. Explain the whole situation to them. And you know what they told me to do? I had an outdoor range that had an encased shell because of where we were. They told me to go lay the thing out there. And then they told me to go get any other bow with a broadhead and start aiming for the string.
Seriously?
Yes. And I'm like, you're joking, right? Like, there's no,
Wow.
like, I said, a lot of times there's like a safer
That's
way to do
wild.
this. And they're like, we've never dealt with this before. And that's the only thing we can tell you to do. If you can put it in a safe location, this boat is probably going to explode. And that's what you need to do. So me and my archery tech, like, we went
You just
in.
took turns shooting at the thing?
We took turns shooting at it. So we had a gunsmith that had a rubber trap on site. We took that rubber trap, stood behind it, and we just start flinging mechanicals at this thing. And I think my assistant tech got it on the third shot, and that thing just blew up inside of this shell. I mean, we're lucky, like, we had that setting, but yeah, it was a very hairy, scary, sketchy situation.
That's got to be like the only time that's ever happened in history. That's just mind-boggling to me.
Dude, you would be surprised at what people do to their bows.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be surprised. I don't have a ton of faith left in humanity at this point.
Do you want to hear the compound one real quick?
Sure.
Had this guy come in. It was another weekend. He comes in with a bow that you could tell it's obviously been dry fired. Like, it's been blown apart, limbs are straight, strings are snapped and broken. Comes in, sets it on my desk. He's like, I need to get some new strings for this. And he said, it's about time. I'm like, yeah, I think so. He's like, yeah. He said, man, I was just practicing and, it just fell apart on me. I'm like, yeah. It's like, man, it happens. Like, you got to keep an eye on strings. Like, did you have it sitting in a garage? Like, going through all these questions I asked my customers because I need to know, like, what happened, because we could have a limb that cracked. We could have a cam that got bent, axles bent. Like, sometimes there's just little things that cause a string to jump off and essentially blow up like this. And he's like, well, he said, I'll tell you what happened. I was just practicing. It just blew up. I said, okay, well, kind of walk me through what happened. And I'm not kidding you. He goes, I was sitting on my couch. I'm like, where's this going to go? He goes, I was sitting on the couch And, you've seen that AccuBow commercial, right? They shoot that thing at the TV.
Oh.
He said, so I was doing the same thing with this. He said, I'd just go back to full draw, aim at the TV at a big buck, and I would just squeeze the trigger, practice on. And he said, I probably got like 10 or 15 shots. And he said, on the last one, it just blew up on me. I don't understand.
He was able to dry fire it that many times before it blew up. That's impressive, actually.
It was a Diamond Infinite Edge bow. I'm like, I was surprised you were able to shoot it that many times. He goes, well, what do you mean? He goes, I should be able to fire this thing infinite amount of times. That shouldn't happen. I said, no. I explained to him, I said, you have to have an arrow in your bow. I said, that bow needs a place to displace all that energy that you just built up when you drew it. And when it doesn't have anywhere to do it, it transfers it back into the bow. And that's when you see this happen. I said, I'm surprised you were able to do it that many times.
That's hands down the most pathetic, ridiculous dry firing story I've ever heard. Like I had a friend, actually that Martin that I originally had.
Yeah.
I had a buddy pick the reason I no longer had that bow is I had a buddy who picked it up one day in my bedroom and just pulled it back and let her rip, and the thing just was immediately destroyed.
People don't know.
And I didn't even think about that till now, but I had a long hiatus of bow shooting after that. I was trying to think of earlier when we were talking about kind of our history of bow hunting, and I have like this gap of years where I didn't even shoot just for fun, like just at the range. And now I remember it's because he blew that bow up, and I didn't really have money to afford another one. So
well, now you have another hiatus going on that we're going to talk about.
That was his name is Jared. So thanks for that, Jared. I missed out on years of bow hunting because of that.
Woo-hoo. The HuntStand podcast is powered by Muddy Outdoors. For Josh and I, we run Muddy because it plain works. From tree stands to box blinds and the new Deviate camo and boots, it's the gear we trust every season. When you're spending long hours in the woods, it makes a difference having equipment that's built for hunters by hunters. And that's why we stick with Muddy. To check it out, head to gomuddy.com.
Crossbow hunting has opened a lot of doors for keeping our hunting traditions alive. Crossbows have been great for bringing new hunters into our circle, but also for keeping older bow hunters in the field. No matter where you're at in your crossbow hunting journey, you can look to our partners at 10 Point to find the most diverse line of crossbows with the best of the best technology for virtually any budget. Head on over to 10pointcrossbows.com and use the crossbow selector tool to find your next setup.
Well, let's get into it, man. I mean, let's kind of discuss similarities and differences. You're the crossbow guy on the team. I'm the compound guy, but we've both done each other's, I guess you could call it, passions.
Well, and that actually it shocks me because I didn't think that you shot something with a crossbow before I did. But what year did you say it was?
That was 2014.
14. So, yeah, the first thing I shot was that Axis deer in 2018. So you're 4 years. You should be talking more about the crossbows, I guess.
I mean, I've been doing archery stuff has been in my blood since junior high for me, 2004. 2004.
I think maybe part of that, like I'm from Minnesota, you're from Texas. A lot of, most kids start out deer hunting these days. Back in the day, it was like small game, come home from school, get off the bus, walk another 5 miles home and shoot squirrels on the way home, bring your gun to school, all that.
Or dove hunting.
Yeah, like a lot of kids started out with small game and stuff back in the day, but that's kind of gone away. I think most people start with deer hunting now. And Minnesota, it's like 12 years old is kind of the age.
Yeah.
Whereas where you're from,
that's so foreign.
A lot of southern states, it's like you come out of the womb and you can start hunting.
Yeah, I think I was dove hunting at age 6 with a single shot 410.
That's wild.
I think I got one in all the times we went.
My earliest hunting experiences were actually, I lived in suburbia. I grew up in suburbia, so houses stacked right next to each other. But especially when people weren't home, I'd sneak out there with a slingshot or a wrist rocket or my pellet gun, and I'd shoot squirrels and crows and stuff in my yard.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized actually my first crossbow kill was probably when I was about I bet you I was like 9 or 10 years old. We used to have this like the town days for our town.
Yeah.
Where they'd have a flea market set up. And so I always loved going to that flea market as a kid, looking at all the knives and all the stuff that you're not supposed to be able to get, but the carnies would sell to you. And this dude sold me a crossbow it was like a miniature crossbow. And
like a wooden one?
No, it was legit. Like there's no reason they should have sold it to a kid. I mean, it was like probably it was under 2 feet.
Oh my God.
But it was legit, like it had real energy, and it had like bolts that were pointed. They weren't broadheads on them, but like I had no business with that thing.
No.
I brought it home, got it sighted in. It just had a rudimentary scope on it. And I'm telling you, this thing was only like 2 feet long, but like if I would have like shot somebody with it, like it could kill someone. It was
gosh.
It wasn't
medieval.
a toy.
It was medieval.
It wasn't a toy. And I got that thing sighted in after that carnival that day, and I shot a squirrel in my yard. So that was actually my first crossbow kill. But no, you're talking about getting into the similarities and differences. Let's just talk about, I don't know. First of all, like, why am I such an advocate for crossbows? Well, first of all, if they're used properly, I think you can overall, on average, take much more accurate shots, more controlled shots. But the big thing that anybody knows, and one of the biggest challenges with a vertical bow, is the draw. Like having to draw on an animal, that's one of the crucial steps that often gets you busted and whatnot. And so not having to do that with a crossbow is a major advantage. I'm not here to say that crossbows don't have major advantages over compounds, but we'll get into some of the details here in a bit. About
I'll agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say it is nice to, especially on those dead calm mornings, it's pretty nice to just lift up the bow a little bit.
Yeah, and also like, with arrow ducking or string jumping, however you want to refer to it, as a common issue in any type of bow hunting, we all know that whitetails especially are wiry to begin with, but they're really wiry when they know something's not right. And so drawing a bow, I would have to imagine quite a few instances of string jumping or arrow ducking are a direct result of that deer getting on edge from having to draw a bow. And I mean, it's part of the art of bow hunting, is being able to draw inconspicuously. So I definitely get that.
I think that's more of a user error thing versus the bow itself. I think I've got an argument for you in a little bit.
Okay.
On why I think deer duck crossbows significantly more than compounds.
All right, we'll get to that then. And I think as we go through this, the thing that's going to be fleshed out is they're actually a heck of a lot more similar than people like to give them credit for. Both of the platforms.
They are.
It's archery, but so drawing a bow, that's definitely a benefit to shooting a crossbow, is that you don't have to go through that motion.
We should put a counter up right now on the screen. It's like crossbows 1, compound 0.
I think by the end of this, it's going to equal out pretty dang close. But what would be another, I guess, kind of on either side, crossbow or compound, what would be like a benefit versus drawback that you can think of
for compound?
Either way,
man, I really like the fine tunability with a sight, because unless you're really shooting a laser ranging sight, which is available on both compound and crossbow, I feel like I can definitely get more micro level with a compound versus crossbow, because I think just for the sake of the argument, we'll just talk about traditional sights, traditional scopes that go on crossbows. If I have a dial sight that's on my compound, if I have an exact location or window that's 32 yards, I can dial my sight to 32 yards to be dead on. Crossbow scopes, you pretty much just have that 20, 30, 40, 50, and I think some might even have 60 on it.
Oh,
but
they go far.
You've got some that'll go further.
Yeah.
But I really like that. I really like that fine tunability of a sight. I mean, that's definitely one that I like to go for there.
So on the flip side, that makes a lot of sense, especially with, archers like yourself who want it to be, you like to tinker, you like to get everything as dialed as possible, even though I would argue that 99% of bow hunters don't have the skill level to even make that worthwhile. I think human error in shooting outweighs the micro adjustments that you can make.
It does, but it's a confidence thing.
Yes, that's a big deal.
To me, I'm more about confidence than oh man, I'll aim just a little bit higher because I only have a 30 reticle versus a 32 yard pin.
That is a big deal. That transfers over to rifle hunting too. It's like, how refined if you're going to be shooting at extended distances, how refined is your dope chart?
Yeah.
Does it have to be perfect? Do you have to know your drop at 380 versus 400 to make that adjustment?
How big is a vital zone that you're aiming on in the animal? What's your margin for error?
Exactly. Yeah. So your argument makes sense. The more fine-tuned you can get with that adds to your confidence. And confidence often, I would say, trumps just about everything when it comes to hunting and shooting. Well,
and it's even at longer distances for archer, for compound, that's even more crucial. If I got a target at 84, I need to aim with 84, not holding a little bit higher because I have an 80 and 90 pin. That's why I shoot dialed pins.
Yep. No, that does make sense. And that would be more, I would argue that'd be more on the competition side. That certainly is absolutely critical to have it like that when you're shooting at that level. Most hunters who have no business shooting beyond 20 yards, that's a different story. But I would say, kind of counter to your argument for micro adjustable sights with a compound, with a crossbow, the benefit of having that magnified optic, especially when you're talking about low light scenarios, which let's just face it, a lot of our best opportunities come at first light and last light.
Yeah.
You got the benefit of that. When you're looking through glass, you can see much more clearly and have a much more defined aiming point in those low light situations. Even if you're running good fiber optic sights or illuminated sights, battery illuminated sights on a compound, you're going to be able to see better through a magnified optic, even if it's only 2 or 3x.
I have a rebuttal for you.
You can try on this one. I don't think you're going to win.
Yes, I will. You can have a magnified peep to do the same thing.
But how many people? I've never met somebody who uses one.
Dude, do you have any idea the amount of people I used to put magnifiers and clarifiers on their peeps for them?
Really?
Yes. I had dudes that would come in, guys and gals, that they wanted that in their peep. They wanted it because they're like, you're over 40, you're starting to get it a little bit. Your vision starts to go a little bit, things aren't quite as focused. You want to have that little bit of magnification because of low light situations, or you want to see that shoulder definition a little bit better. You can do the same thing on a compound.
I wish I were more qualified to present a good argument against that because I think I could. But you're telling me that looking through a magnified peep and still having to line up an independent front sight with the animal is going to give you better visibility than looking through a magnified optic in low light?
Depends on the magnification. I will say that.
I'm going to have to see that for myself.
I would say I think the magnification on the TX28 I have from 10 Point right now, I want to say it's a 3X.
It's probably a 3X.
I think it's a 3X. I can put a peep. I can put a magnifier clarifier inside of a peep that's going to get me pretty dang close to that. If I have vision issues, I am, I'm trying to remember which one it is. I'm really good at seeing far, but anything close to me, I wear contacts. And so anything that's real close, it takes me a second. So I think it's a verifier that I need to have switched up for me. But I can get pretty dang close to help me out there. You get a bigger peep, which causes, it can open up a can of worms with some issues there with tunability. But I can get nearly the same thing. Obviously, you're not looking through a scope, but I can get some increased magnification there to help me out.
I'm gonna have to see for myself on that one. That's hard for me to buy that magnified peep on a. Dude, you're having to line up that front sight still, so it's not a contained environment.
Think about the competitive shooters that are out there. You've heard of podium peeps before, right?
Yeah, but they're not shooting in low light, ever.
Well, I mean, look at Vegas shoot. They're shooting in dark light. You have a target that's like semi-illuminated, but you're in a dark room.
Aren't they doing that for the purpose? Yeah, you have a target that's illuminated.
And that's for finals.
A spotlight on a deer when you're about to shoot.
No, I know, but
some people maybe.
Well, and there's even scopes out there like TrueGlow makes one. TrueGlow makes one that it has a magnified optic. That's another caveat is you have sights with magnified lenses. So I mean, there's an argument to be had here.
I think the best place for this one to be hashed out would be any of you people who are listening or watching, drop a comment. If you've got experience with a magnified peep on a compound
or magnified sight,
that's right. Let's see what you have to say, because I want to hear more about this. I've never looked through one, but man, I sure like a scope. I really like a scope.
I think there's even sites out there that there are sites that go on compounds that look like a freaking scope.
So let's I don't think we're going to settle that one here.
No, that one's not going to be settled. The HuntStand podcast is powered by Yamaha Outdoors. For us, Yamaha side-by-sides like the Wolverine RMX 41000 LE are a game changer for us in the woods. Whether it's hauling gear to the deer stand, putting in work around the farm, or just hitting trails with the family, Yamaha delivers the reliability and comfort we count on. If you want to check them out, and the full lineup of Yamaha ATVs, side-by-sides, and off-road vehicles, head to YamahaMotorsports.com.
We love all types of hunting, and that's why we love our partnership with Savage Arms. There are a lot of gun companies out there, but few that build pieces that cover every aspect of your life as a shooter. Savage gives you options for just about everything, from rimfires for plinking and small game hunting, to centerfire rifles for going after predators and big game, to shotguns for turkey hunting and wing shooting, even down to compact pistols for personal defense. When it comes to burning powder, we trust in Savage. And it's not just the variety of guns that is so impressive from Savage, it's the quality and innovation that has earned our respect. We're talking about technologies like the adjustable AccuStock and AccuTrigger, and the first all-American straight pull action with the Savage Impulse. You can see it all for yourself at savagearms.com. Can you think of anything else in terms of like just obvious benefits and drawbacks, one versus the other?
So from a compound perspective, an obvious thing that I think is key, and I'm going to come back to a string duck reason here, sound. Compound bows are significantly quieter,
no doubt,
than crossbows.
No doubt. Some crossbows sound like someone slamming a door.
Well, that's the thing. Like some crossbows, depending on what brand you're shooting, and if you have any vibration dampening stuff going on the strings, there's suppressed rifles out there that are quieter than a crossbow. And I've had a buck duck a string at 35 yards with a crossbow. Now, I mean, killed the deer. It was actually on a setup episode where I had my daughter with me. That deer was at 35 yards, and I knew exactly where to aim for 35. And he, like, perfect scenario, he didn't know what was going on, lifted his head up, perfect, shoulders forward. And it's one of those situations like you do with archery hunting in general. You wait for their head to come up because they're less likely to jump that string on you. That thing was so freaking loud. He still jumped, and I mean, it was a good 4-inch drop.
And you were in a box blind, so it was like sending it through a bullhorn too.
Yeah,
with the echo of coming out the window.
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah, that makes. I saw that. I saw that hunt. Anybody who wants to watch it, we still have it on our YouTube channel. I can't remember what the title is. We can drop the link in the description.
I think it's called Forky. We'll drop it. Yeah, we'll drop it below.
No, I'm not going to argue with you on that, and that starts to bring us kind of toward what I think is the reality of all of this, one of the biggest arguments against crossbows is that they're too effective, and that, you know, you hear people refer to them all the time, whether they're deadly serious or just being joking around, being sarcastic. You hear people refer to them all the time as cross rifles.
Yeah.
And like what you just said, that's actually not it's not the case. It's archery.
Yeah, it's still archery equipment.
It's low velocity. I mean, I ran the numbers real quick before we came on here, talking about arrow speeds, and we both agreed that a reasonable average for a compound arrow speed would be 290 feet per second.
Yeah, sub 300. And that's shooting a good hunting arrow, 100 grains, typical 29-inch draw length.
And with a crossbow, let's just say, I mean, they vary in speeds nowadays, but 400 feet per second, I would say, with modern crossbows, that's a reasonable average just to go off of for this example.
Yeah, so I would say 380 or 390.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the higher end ones are above 400, but let's just call it 400 right now for this example. So let's say the average compound 290 feet per second, average crossbow 400. The difference of 110 feet per second. So what are we actually looking at here for the arrow to reach, let's just say a deer at 40 yards? What we're talking about with that 290 feet per second compound, it's 0.46 seconds to travel 40 yards without any other things taken into consideration. Obviously, wind deflection, none of that. Just raw trajectory. And that 400 feet per second crossbow takes 0.3 seconds. So we're talking a difference of...
We're splitting hairs.
0.16 seconds.
Yeah.
So you want to amplify that out and talk about this like from a trajectory perspective, and this idea that because you're going 100 feet per second faster, that suddenly your effective range, your max effective range, goes from kind of the accepted norm of 40 yards for a compound, and people are saying that you can, you know, shoot deer out to 100 yards with a crossbow.
I don't think that's smart.
Let me just tell you this: over the 7 years that I've seriously crossbow hunted, my personal effective range, or my personal confident, like, max distance that I'm willing to shoot a crossbow has gone down a little bit every year. There was a while there where I was like,
60,
good rest, no wind, everything's perfect, animals calm, like perfect scenario, 70 or 80 every time.
Really?
Because I'm sitting there, you know, you can do that with a target. You can do that with a target. You can drop it in a vital zone with a decent crossbow, with a good optic, with a mechanical broadhead, and we'll talk about that in a second.
On a stationary target.
Yeah, on a stationary target. Like, yes, you can do that. Like when my first time sitting down at SHOT Show with that mission crossbow, pop a balloon at 100 yards.
Yeah.
But that is like when I was practicing consistently with my compound, I could also drop an arrow in the vitals of even a pronghorn, smaller than a deer. When I was practicing for my pronghorn hunts, I could make that shot 70 yards in the vitals of a pronghorn 9 out of 10 times. I was practicing at 70 yards all the time.
Yeah.
How was it when I had a pronghorn in front of me at 70 yards compared to that target? Completely different scenario. Totally different scenario.
There's way more variables sitting on a water hole in a ground blind chasing after a pronghorn versus shooting off the back deck at the house.
Way more variables. And so to say that a crossbow is that much more effective it's not as simple as that. Now, I do have some pretty strong feelings about if you use a crossbow properly and you don't try to shoot it like a quote unquote cross rifle. If you shoot it and accept the fact that it is archery equipment, and you shoot it within, you know, reasonable distances, I do think it has an advantage. But where it definitely does not have an advantage is people who think that you can all of a sudden shoot 60 plus yards just because it's capable of doing it accurately at the range.
No, and I mean, I've been doing this longer than you have, and I won't shoot a whitetail past 50. Like, and that's for me to shoot a whitetail at 50 yards with a crossbow. It can't be spooky. There's got to be zero wind, and I've got to have a dead broadside shot. Other than that, my max effective comfort zone with shooting a deer with compound and with crossbow is going to be 40 to 45. Like, that is where I feel that even if I get a little bit of drop, or, you know, I've got some wind, got some variables, deer might be a little bit sketched, this and that, like, I'm not going to push it past that with either of them.
And there's also something with, I think, like, I don't know, just naturally as you get older, a lot of times you become just more conservative about life in general.
Wisdom.
Well, so I'm 7 years older than you, and it's like the older I get, my conservativeness with things, like, the curve gets more exponential.
Starting to sound like my dad.
So, like, how I was between 30 and 35, like, I got a little more conservative on things. 35 to 40, like, as that curve goes up, like, so does my conservativeness.
You're less likely to take a risk.
Yeah, so, like, man, now I look at 40 yards, and I'm like, every year older I get, I stand there and I look at a target at 40 yards, and I'm like, damn, that looks far.
Not getting any closer.
Every year, and I still have 20/20 vision. It's not about that, but it's just like every single year I go back out to the range to shoot whatever. I'm like, man, that looks a little bit farther this year. And then I think about all the scenarios I've been in with animals, and like I had a doe in front of me at 40 yards. I was trying to shoot a doe a week and a half ago, and I had one in front of me at 40 yards, and she was just feeding, and I'm like, damn, that feels like a long ways. So, I don't know, man. There's so many different variables to this, but
there are, you know, and I would actually kind of like to bring it back a little bit, you know, looking at similarities and differences between the two. You know, we've talked about, you know, the drawing aspect, optics, speed, sound. The other one I'd like to come back to is wear and tear. Compounds last a lot longer. String life, cam life, axle life, limb life. You don't have near the amount of poundage on limbs, or, you know, you don't have all that pressure set. So strings last a lot longer. I don't have serving separation that happens as quick. Like, and this is just looking at somebody who's an average shooter. Like, I'm not talking about a John Dudley who's going out and shooting 400 or 500 shots a day. Like, I'm just talking about the dude that comes home from work and wants to go fling, you know, 15 to 30 arrows, checking his bow, getting ready for the fall, kind of. Like, that's who I'm talking about. Crossbows, they get some serious string separation after, you know, just a few shots. Like a new bow, like, you'll start to see the serving separation. You know, you'll see it where the bolt fits on the nock. Like, that's the sharpest angle. You'll start to see it on, depending on the cam design, and how the string wraps around it and what the manufacturer did. Like, there's some severe wear and tear on crossbows. And, like, man, those limbs, like, I don't know what they make limbs out of, like, just for crossbows, but to be able to handle that amount of poundage,
it's unbelievable.
It is.
It is. It's like a every time I have a cocked crossbow, it feels like a bomb that's armed. And I mean, that's just a testament to how great the technology has become. And I mean, yeah, they're a really powerful tool. But that's an interesting take. I didn't consider even going there about the wear and tear aspect.
That's for any brand, doesn't matter.
Oh, for sure,
any manufacturer.
Yeah. It's just like you said. There's so much energy pent up in there.
And I got one more too.
What is that?
You could potentially chop your finger off.
Yeah, well,
you got to watch that.
We've all seen the shot of the dude with the arrow through the compound arrow through his hand and all that.
Well, and I forget the name of the hunting show. I was watching it a couple months ago. Dude was chasing whitetail somewhere with a crossbow, and, you know, heat of the moment, wasn't thinking. And every crossbow manufacturer, they've got a rail and they've got warning, risk management, liability signs, like do not put your fingers above this reel.
Sometimes it's even
Above
in the
this rail.
scope. There's a warning in the scope to remind you.
You'll see it on the scope. You'll see it. Manufacturers are good about it. But the dude got in the moment. Can't remember the show, but his thumb was just a little bit over that rail. Goes to shoot that deer, hits the deer, and then all of a sudden you just hear him go, "Son of a, my thumb's gone." And he whacked the tip of his thumb off because of that. And like that's a big thing people have to remember. And I remember it because all those freaking 10-point videos I had to do.
Yeah, I think that's another actually a really good point, because within that, people have learned to have a really solid like safety protocol and respect for firearms.
Yes.
And someone starts shooting a crossbow, and they think that like you think of it more like a bow in that regard, in terms of how the profile of how it works and all that. It would probably be good for some people to consider it to be more like a firearm. I mean,
that's how I treat it.
Be like if you're hunting with a handgun, and you don't have your your offhand in the right spot or something like that, or a short barreled rifle. Like you definitely have to be like conscious all the time with it.
Oh, you do. Like, I mean, and I would say that's probably another thing that I would give a nod to the compounds on is it's a little bit of a, I don't necessarily like having a loaded crossbow at full draw right here on a tree next to me. Like I have to not think about that. Like I like that I have a compound sitting there with an arrow at rest down, but that's where you come back to the whole drawing aspect, you know.
I think sort of the moral of the story here is, regardless of what you're shooting, you have to have respect for it.
Yeah.
And you got to put in the time and the reps on the range, whether it's a crossbow or a compound. Like you need to have a familiarity and respect and like comfort with handling that weapon properly before you go walking out into the field. And if you follow all the safety protocols, especially with like 10 points, those things are built so bulletproof, and they got the anti-dry fire mechanism and all that stuff.
AccuDraw system.
If you're doing everything right, how you should be with any weapon, even if you're carrying a pocket knife. I've had a open assist pocket knife open in my pocket and stab me in the leg before. Like, you just got to be careful with that stuff.
You do. I mean, because you could easily, as shooting a compound, you get in the moment and just barely raise your finger up in front of your riser.
Exactly.
And you could have a mechanical or fixed blade broadhead catch the tip of your finger and take it off, or just as easily have an arrow go through your hand because of user misuse.
Yeah. HuntStand offers the very best in mapping, e-scouting, and even gear savings. And the best membership level that you can get through HuntStand is the new HuntStand Ultimate membership. We've got activity forecasts for whitetails, mule deer, elk, and blacktails, and we've got rut maps for all those species as well. And we've got great integrated mapping features like 3D national aerial imagery and a bunch of other base maps and overlays that you're going to want to be able to have access to hunt and scout the most effectively. On top of all that, as a HuntStand Ultimate member, you can get up to 50% savings on great gear from some of the top hunting brands. Go to huntstand.com to learn more. Yeah, so it's like, that's another thing about crossbows. People, yes, you can buy them virtually ready to hunt. Like, you might have to make a small adjustment in a scope, but like, you can be ready to rock and out there hunting with one in 15 minutes from the time you pull it out of the box, from sight in to actually, having it ready to hunt.
Yeah.
Does that actually mean that you should just roll out there? Like, you still need to practice with the damn thing.
Oh, absolutely.
It's still archery equipment. And I promise you, the more you practice with it, especially for the naysayers who just think they take crossbows for granted, the more time I've spent with them, the more conservative I've gotten, because you have to have the experience with it to understand its limitations.
Yeah.
So that's all interesting stuff. Let's get into a gear aspect of it and broadhead options. Now, that's something that I almost had to learn the hard way.
Let me guess, you were shooting fixed blades.
I wanted to shoot fixed blades with my crossbow, and I ended up going on a hunt in Kansas where it was a muzzleloader hunt, but I had a doe tag and I wanted to shoot a doe with a crossbow. And so I was just spending some time out on the range. I really wanted to shoot some fixed blades.
Yeah.
And, I shot at 20. It was on 30. It was a little off. I'm like, oh, that was probably just me, but
like an inch or so, 2 inches.
yeah. And the next thing you know, I shoot out to 60 and I missed the damn target. Crossbows, because they do not have the adjustability like a compound does, you can shoot fixed blades, but you probably most likely can't shoot them at extended distances, even necessarily a lot of times probably even like beyond 20 yards, because they will plane, and there's no way you can really adjust for it. So mechanicals,
No.
I'm not saying you're limited to mechanicals, but if you're going to shoot a fixed blade broadhead out of a crossbow, you damn well better shoot it at every possible distance you intend to hunt. And you're probably going to find out that you just can't shoot one beyond a certain distance unless you've really somehow got it figured out where you can compensate, but that planing isn't always consistent at distance either. So you probably can't do that.
Yeah, and it's not like you can go and throw a four vein configuration on a crossbow. I'm saying this, but there's probably somebody out there that might get in the comment section and say I've done it and fixed that, and I would love to actually hear about it, but I don't. Depending on crossbows, I don't know what the feasibility or safetiness is behind that. So yeah, but I will say what is kind of nice about being more or less forced into a mechanical for that reason. You get some wider cutting options, which is pretty nice to have. Like, 2.5 inch. I think there's some 3 inchers out there.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And that's a whole nother episode bringing us into the broadhead debate. I guess one of the main reasons I brought that up is for anybody who is new to crossbow hunting. Don't think that because you shoot that crossbow at 20 yards for your sight in with a fixed blade, that it's going to fly true out to extended distances, because it's most likely not. In fact, I would bet that it's just not going to.
Yeah.
So I say that as an educational component, but also some people are just ride or die fixed blades. So
yeah,
like if you're going to shoot a crossbow, just count on the fact that you probably won't be able to shoot a fixed blade. So if you don't have confidence in mechanicals, and I know that there's that crowd out there, and frankly, there is some research to back that. Like everybody knows that a good fixed blade, there's been study after study. It's been proven that on average they are more effective, and more consistent. But if you're a diehard fixed blade guy, you're probably not going to be happy shooting a crossbow.
Well, and there, like you said, it's a whole nother podcast in itself. But there is some debate for compound as well. Like me personally, it all depends on what I am hunting and where I'm hunting. So I've got a fixed blade that I really love, and I've got a mechanical that I really love, or actually 2 or 3 mechanicals I really love. And like when we went to Kansas a couple years for 9 lives, my first velvet deer, out of state deer, Texas. I'm gonna boast them because I know you love to hear about them. The most famous deer on the HuntStand team. I knew our shot was going to be under 30 yards. Like if I'm going into a hunt where I know I'm going to be under 30, it's kind of the same situation with the fixed blade. I mean, a fixed blade broadhead. I'm going to shoot it because I know I'm going to get more devastation just in terms of if I hit a shoulder for some reason. I know that sucker is going to go through there. I'm going to have bone crushing capability. Not to say that there's mechanicals out there that can't do it, but I just know it's going to do its job.
You don't have to have a single thought about whether or not it might open.
It's going to crush.
Deploy, because it's already deployed.
Right. It's going to crush. And yes. Under 30, I don't have to worry about variables. Outside of 30, like if I'm going elk hunting, I still want that bone crushing capability. I want it to go through that elk. I don't want to see an elk running off with only maybe a half an arrow sticking out of it. There's some broadhead tuning that comes into play You got to think about vane configurations. So I mean, it's kind of the same situation there with compounds, but you get better tunability out of a compound.
Yes.
For fixed blades at longer distances, you have the tuning capability. Most of the mechanicals out there, they're going to shoot just like my field point wheel out of that compound. Like I'll have the same confidence at 20 that I would at 80 or 90. Obviously, wind variables, everything else that comes into play when you're on a hunt. But I know at that range, what it's doing at 20 with the mechanical, it's going to do what I need it to at 80.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to make it clear, I wasn't trying to suggest that you don't need to also double check and verify your accuracy with a field point or with a broadhead with a compound. You do. I almost had to learn that the hard way. I went on a Utah mule deer hunt several years ago, and I had been practicing. I was totally negligent, but I had been practicing out to 40 yards with a fixed blade broadhead all the way leading up to that trip. And in the final weeks before the trip, it was the deal. Like I'd shoot one arrow a day, make it count, 40 yards.
Cold bore challenge.
Yeah, I do that every day leading up to the hunt, and I felt so good about everything. And I had this fixed blade that I was totally confident in. Now, prior to that, I had been shooting at farther distances, knowing that there was a good chance I'd have to take a farther shot beyond 40 yards. Mountain country, mule deer, spot and stock, that whole thing. But then I screwed up because I'd been shooting a field point out to 70 yards. That was my main practice distance leading up to the hunt. And I'm like, all right, time to start shooting my broadhead. So then, for whatever reason, I just started shooting it at 40 yards every day because I thought it was set. I get out there the day before the hunt, and I had a longer range available to me on the property I was on. They had targets out at farther distances. Part of the reason I had limited to 40 leading up right up to it is because my only way to shoot further was to go to an archery range, and so I wanted to just be able to shoot at my house. I could only shoot 40, and I get out there to the hunt, shoot out to 40, everything's all good. 50, it's off, like prohibitively far off. And I'm like, what? No, it was like, for whatever reason with that setup after 40, it really just started to plane, and I was like, man, I can't even like justify shooting. And then I shot out to 60, and it was like way off, and I'm like, what? It totally messed with my head because I'd already settled on that broadhead for that hunt, and I'm like, man, I want to be able to shoot out to 50 or 60 yards if I need to.
Yeah.
So I had to switch broadheads the night before the hunt. I switched to a mechanical. First, if I got in my own head about everything, I was like, man, I know I can drain them at 60 because I've been practicing, and all these things get in my head, and I'm like, someone was with me. He's like, you want to just try a rage and see? I'm like, sure. Sure enough, I shot at 60, drained it, and I'm like, wow. It was a total amateur hour learning experience for me. But you can't take that stuff for granted. You got to practice at all the distances you're going to hunt. Doesn't matter what you're using.
Distances, scenarios, kneeling, standing, whole nother podcast in itself right there. But yeah,
for sure.
Bottom line, got to practice.
The other thing that I think is important to mention that you touched on in a different light, you talked about maintenance. Now, like I said, I've never been one to get into the fine tuning of a compound bow, and like I set it up to hunt, and if it can shoot at the distances I intend to hunt, I don't like tinkering any further beyond that. It's just not my thing. But if you want to do that, you can with a compound. You can even, if you're on a road trip or whatever, you could bring a bow press with you in case you get in a pickle or something like that.
Yeah.
Crossbow, you're kind of like,
you're limited.
Like there's not so much you can do if shit goes wrong. I mean, you kind of got to either just have a backup, or, I mean, what are you going to do? Like if something really goes wrong,
you are limited. A lot of pro shops nowadays, they keep a lot of parts in stocks for the major manufacturers. They're going to have some type of string in stock for most of the flagship bows. Crossbows, man, it's tough. I mean, I don't know of a crossbow manufacturer yet, like a Matthews. Like Matthews has a capability. Like if I'm out there and I have a spare set of strings with me because I changed them out or something. Matthews has a capability. They have accessories that you can literally offload the string and put a new one on in the field without a
bow press.
Without a press. I am not aware of a crossbow manufacturer that allows me to do that. Like if I'm out there and a string snaps on me.
Well, with modern crossbows, modern compound crossbows, I don't think that exists. That's why, going back to my first experience shooting that old school recurve style, that's why some guys like those, because you can service those.
Yeah, Excalibur, I think, does have something, because that was one of the brands I kept in my shop, and if I remember correctly, they had a way that they sent a spare string with you in case of something, but I forget how. How to offload it.
Yep.
And then I will say, like, a benefit is, like, if you do have that capability with a crossbow, guess what? You don't have to worry about a D-loop. You don't have to worry about tying in a new peep. Is your peep turning? Is it at the same height? Like,
a lot less things to go wrong.
Exactly. Are your anchor points still the same? Yeah. How's your knock fit?
That's a great point.
You don't have to worry about as many variables if you're able to swap out a string. You just swap it out. You might have to compensate for some string stretch, because crossbows are notorious for that. Like, the sight-in process is pretty different. So, I mean, you're going to have to count for that, but I think there's less to worry about with that, with a crossbow.
So we've gone over just some of the physical and practical kind of ups and downs of each, I'd say, right now. And all the way down to the end of this conversation, we're going to find out that they're pretty equal when you consider all factors. Okay? Yeah. But let's just talk about the nitty-gritty actual stats, and that would be success rates. And so this is an interesting one. I pulled this up I sourced it from Hook and Barrel magazine, and of course they got the statistic from somebody else, but I just want to give them the credit from where I pulled it from. And I'm going to read this here. A 5-year study conducted at Fort Sill in Oklahoma found that success rates averaged 22.8% for crossbows and 18% for compound bows, and then 11% for traditional gear. So, okay, 3.5%.
There's a good reason for that too.
I guess that's statistics are what they are. Is 3.5% significantly more? I don't know. That's kind of a subjective thing, but and I know that's just one stat, but what we have learned over the last 10, 15 years is pretty much anywhere crossbows are introduced, the harvest success rate does go up. Like Wisconsin, for instance.
4.5%, not 3.5%.
Well, math ain't my deal. 18 to 22. Actually, I think I got you on that one. That'd be
4.8%.
Okay. Yeah. Dang. That's bad. But no, we know kind of just as a fact that crossbow success rates are higher. Well, what does that mean, Will?
I think there's a multitude of reasons as to why that is.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say, because I'm wondering if you got what I'm gonna.
One we'll get into in a little bit. I think there's more newer hunters and older hunters that are partaking in crossbow because of the opportunities behind it. I mean, I'm going to do it with my daughter. In fact, that's how I introduced it. Like, if you watch that setup episode, she was with me, and there's no loud bang. So I think there's a conversation for that. But then the other reason, a lot of your crossbow hunts, you have the traditional feel of shooting a rifle. You've got a stock to hold. You've got a butt up against your shoulder. You have a trigger to squeeze. So there's a lot of point of contacts for stability. You can put it on a bog pod or a tripod rest, or you can set it on a window. So there's a lot more stability and accuracy and precision to shooting a crossbow with that aspect. Compound, you don't have that. You've got one hand on the bow, one on the release. And you don't have a stable platform. Like, you're relying on strength and muscle memory and what you've done with that bow. Like, you might have to swing. Like, you're not going to be able to set it on the window of a blind. Like, you don't have that. So I think there's that. And like, of course, when you look at traditional gear, your accuracy, max effective range is significantly lower than crossbow. I mean, it's significantly lower than crossbow, lower than compound, of course. And I mean, with compound as well, like, going back to what you and I talked about with max effective range, like, people are going to be more confident shooting further with a crossbow. I think people are going to be more apt to take a 45-yard shot with a crossbow versus a compound. Like, I think a lot of people's max effective range with a compound is 20 to 30, depending on how long they've been shooting and who's shooting.
So that's at the core of this is a question that I'm not sure we have answered yet. And if anybody listening or watching knows differently, or you've got some reliable statistic or study that's already been done, please, by all means, share it in the comments, share a link to it, or just drop in the info. But at the core of all this, the real question is, are they more effective because of the way that you shoot them, or are the success rates higher because they're a more effective killing tool? So is it because more people are hunting and more people are flinging arrows out of crossbows and there are just more people in the woods, all that kind of stuff? Max effective range might be a little bit higher, so they're connecting on more animals that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to. Or it could be an either-or scenario. Or is it because crossbows are more effective, more lethal, and people are losing more animals with compounds? That's a question that I'm not sure anybody knows the answer to, but it's compelling to think of that. In my opinion, if I had to guess, the average person, the average hunter who uses a crossbow responsibly, is going to be more effective than the average person who uses a compound in the same capacity. I know that's kind of like the heart of this contention around this debate is, are they more effective? And as a result, are we putting too many more people in the woods, like especially on public lands?
And that's why the statistics are higher for crossbows.
Exactly. And another big question around this debate is this going to result in tags being harder to come by? If it becomes more effective, are state agencies going to start letting out less tags? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of questions at the heart of this, you know?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you this, like, I think it depends on, I think it's just, there's so many different factors that come into play here. And like with state agencies, I think it's going to depend on the state and what they want to do. Like, I'm not going to go haul a crossbow around up in the mountains chasing an elk. I don't know about you. I mean, that's too much weight.
Well, and even the Western example is an obvious one to point to when we're talking about tag allocation, because that's more of a thing out west. But let's just say eastern states, where we're talking only about whitetails, which is almost always managed on just like a harvest objective. It's not as limited entry and like draw permits and stuff like that. It's more like they kind of just manage things, maybe sometimes down to a unit level, but it's based on harvest objectives. So like, our crossbows based on this one at 4.8%, like
4.8, not 3 point.
Is that 4.8% gonna like all of a sudden reduce opportunities for non-crossbow hunters because too many animals are being taken? Like, is it really responsible for removing that many more animals from a given landscape where a state is going to have to adjust their harvest objectives or their tag allocations? I don't know. Like,
I don't know either.
it's complicated stuff.
What I know is it's archery, and I know we're going to have purists listening to this podcast in all three segments that are going to completely disagree with me there. But that's also the same mindset that a trad shooter who's a purist is going to look at compound and be like, no, that's not bow hunting. This is bow hunting. And they're going to look at crossbow and say, that's not bow hunting at all. That's a rifle. Like, bottom line is, like, we don't need to be so critical of each other on it. Like, I enjoy shooting a crossbow. I will not lie. And there's going to come a day later in my life where my shoulder's probably not going to be worth a flip, and I'm not going to be able to draw back on a 70-pound bow anymore. But guess what? I want to be in the woods during archery season, so I'm going to pick up that crossbow. When I introduce my kids to hunting, I'm going to use a crossbow because I don't know about you. When I was a kid growing up, most kids are pretty intimidated and terrified thinking about how a gun is going to kick their shoulder, and then you have the loud bang to consider. So I'm going to use a crossbow to introduce hunting to my kids. I already have. And now my daughter, who is 4 years old, she wants to know when she can shoot her first deer. So guess what? Objective completed right there. I did something right. I'm going to pat myself on the shoulder as a dad. And I know every dad probably thinks that is, man, I really hope my kid loves hunting.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. So it's creating more opportunity. It allows people to do it at different stages in life. I'm not going to bash a recurve or, longbow hunter. That's bow hunting. Guess what? That's the hardest form of archery. Like, you ain't got no pins, you ain't got no scope, you ain't got no stabilizers, no peep, no D-loop. Like, you got your three fingers and you're looking down the arrow shaft, and you really have to know your bow then. To me, all three of them, I'm doing them. I have yet to kill anything with a trad. I'm going to do it one day, but I enjoy all of them, and I think we should not be so critical of each other about it. Even if you call a compound bow a vertical bow. Like that almost grinds my gears as bad as hearing somebody smack their gum.
Well, I guess that was a great bow on it on this deal from you. You wrapped a really nice bow around this conversation.
No pun intended there.
That even just screwed me up when I just said it. Like, wait a minute. But I guess my final words on it would be to sort of reiterate what I've already said here in a few different ways. Like what you just said, it's bow hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, take it down to the core of arrow speed that we addressed. Like, it's bow hunting. They're not these crossbow arrows or bolts or whatever you want to call them. They're not moving at 3,000 feet per second. They're moving, right in the same neighborhood as you're getting out of a compound. So at its core utility of that, it's bow hunting. And each of them have their pluses and minuses. I would argue that they probably balance out somewhere in there when you look at all the factors involved. And I guess this would be also my plea to the diehard vertical bow hunters. That crossbows, if they're shot how they're supposed to be shot, if you have experience behind one, they're not like that much more effective if you're shooting them responsibly.
It's a very small percentage.
So stop calling them cross rifles. It's not what they are.
It's a very small percentage. Like, I mean, you heard it from both of us. I mean, and I'm sure there's a whole debate with different types of firearms too we could go into with this. Like, it's the same thing. Bottom line, we're all hunters. We need to continue to grow the sport, create more opportunities for younger people, new hunters that might be doing it delayed onset later in life. Because there's people that want to take away what we love to do, and we can't do that if we're too separated.
Cold dead hands, baby.
Cold dead hands. All right, y'all. Well, hopefully y'all enjoyed this debate, if you will. We didn't get too heated because I didn't want to, but hopefully y'all enjoyed this. If you like what you're hearing, make sure you're subscribed to the HuntStand podcast. Make sure you download this on whatever platform you're on. We've got this on YouTube, Waypoint TV, Spotify, Apple. Make sure you're subscribed, download, and we'll see you on the next one.